This is West Tigers Radio. Good evening. Well, it was a disappointing performance by the West Tigers this afternoon, going down 26-4 to the Knights in Newcastle. For their thoughts on the match, Gary Watson, Steve Stretton and Declan McCutcheon. Declan, a tough day in the office for the Tigers.
Oh yeah, Joel. What can only be described as a knife in the heart. Definitely, this one definitely hurt, and hopefully it's not the start of a very disappointing season, but. Yeah, boys, I'll just push it to you guys first. You guys were both at the game, and since Eddie isn't here, I'll keep the old tradition alive and ask you guys for one word each to describe that performance against the Knights. I'll start with you, Steve.
Despicable.
Despicable? Do you want to elaborate, or are you good? Or?
It was just a throwback to last year. It was just an effortless, spineless, dumb performance. You know, you could tell in the first 5 minutes that we hadn't turned up, and I've had time to calm down, so I'm not ranting with with emotion. There's no other way to describe it. It was just a terrible performance with no ticker, no footy smarts, nothing.
Gary, what about you?
Yeah, mate, I'm going to go with embarrassing. I've spent today driving up to Newcastle. I've sat there with a pretend Knight supporter friend amongst Newcastle Knight supporters and watched what we just dished up. It's completely embarrassing and really disappointed right now.
Yeah, I think my word would probably be angry. I think last week it was disappointed because I thought we played really well. But just to lose at the end, it was very gut-wrenching. But I think this week it's turned from disappointment to just anger. I mean, we're going to talk about, I've got for the second question, just the general lack of effort from the team. And as a fan, I've never really questioned if a team is ever trying too often. I think that, just because you don't win doesn't mean you're not trying. But it just seemed like this team just, as you guys said, just didn't really try from the opening kickoff. What do you reckon about that, Steve?
Well, last year we mentioned so often that there just seemed to be a lack of a plan in attack and a lack of a defensive structure, for want of a better word. And, for a trial against the Roosters and then for 50 minutes against, arguably the competition favourites, we look different. And once again, we were sort of filled with hope that maybe this team could offer something. None of us expect the team to win the comp. A lot of people don't expect them to make the 8. But we thought, well, there's something about this side. Well, today it was just back to nothing. There was no effort. You could tell in the opening 5 minutes it wasn't going to be there. There was no one hitting the ball up the middle. We tried to go sideways without doing the hard work and going forward. When we did go forward, we didn't do it with any momentum at all. Our defence had no impact. Our line speed was poor. There was just no intent at all. So yeah, I'm angry. I'm happy with that word.
Yeah, go Gary.
The really disappointing thing for me is there's a real lack of intensity from the start of the game. We didn't punch through the middle, and then we're back to running those slow, almost half-speed block plays that we run, where we end up running Laurie into 2 or 3 defenders already in front of him, and he just has to stand there and then kind of look for something to do with the ball. It was a really poor display. There was showed no plan whatsoever about how we're going to defeat the Knights. They're a big side. Play them through the middle. Push through the middle. We didn't do that at all. You have a look at the couple of breaks that we did make, the couple of line breaks. They were straight up the middle. There was one, the Simpkins, where he went straight up the middle, and then Hastings did it again later in the game. If we had have attacked them through the middle, pushed through, played with a bit of intensity through the middle, you're a chance of beating them through the middle and then attack them on the edges. We didn't do any of that. We spread the ball wide early. There was low intensity in attack, and then we threw a couple of half-paced block plays at them that you'd see them walking through at training on a Monday.
Yeah, so disappointing. In terms of, obviously, I would love to say that this is the first time we've seen a performance like this, but I would honestly be lying. There was plenty of times last year where it was the same thing. When there's a game that you'd expect us to compete in, that seems to be the kind of games we play the worst in, which is so disappointing. But Steve, I'll throw it to you. In terms of blame, where do you reckon this lies? Is it Maguire? Is it the coaching staff in some regard, or is it the playing group, or is it a combination of everyone? What do you reckon?
It's everyone. It's the whole club. Like, you know, I've said this over and over and over again, and I've tried not to say it this year. Try to start to be positive. It's the lack of attention to detail. And I'll give one example. I don't know if you guys caught this, but I just happened to catch it before the game. The team were warming up, and just before they went to run off, 5 minutes before the game, they went into a huddle, which everyone does, right? 3 of our players didn't even make that huddle. Nofaluma was one of them, but I'm not going to throw the blame on him because there was 2 others, but I was too far away. I couldn't tell and see who the other 2 players were. But 3 of our players didn't even make it into the huddle that is supposed to be that moment where you galvanise and unite before you go out and do battle. And we couldn't even get our full 17 or 18 players into that huddle. Now, that to me sums up our whole club. It's everyone. Now, there are probably more under pressure than others, absolutely. And this, I've tried not to say it, but I'm going to have to. The laser focus has got to go on Maguire. It just has to. It's just been going on for too long.
Mm. And the thing is, when you think about Maguire, we're only round 2 in, but we're seeing the same traits in this team that we saw last year. I think the pressure really ramps up on him now. I know not everyone's going to like that, but it has to ramp up on the club across the board. Today wasn't acceptable. We're round 2. To have a side show up not ready to play is an indictment on the coach. It's an indictment on the players, but it's also an indictment on the coach. There's the lack of detail and the lack of effort from the players today is really disappointing. But Maguire's into 4 years now. This is his 4th season. And to have a team show up the way they showed up today in round 2, it's not halfway through the season where players are starting to get a little bit tired and things are starting to wear around the edges. It's round 2. How can we not be ready to go round 2?
Yeah, 100% agree with you guys. I think you've both hit the nail on the head in regards to just the attention to detail, because you've got someone like Tyrone Peachey, who's one of the captains of the club, getting sin bin just for just silliness, just absolute unnecessary contact. And that's the person who's supposed to lead by example. How can you have him as the captain of the club if he's doing stuff like that, Gary?
And the big thing is, we're an undisciplined rabble. Like, we'll a rabble in defence, the amount of stupid penalties we gave away, and the terrible drop balls. And we're going to get the comments through the week. We'll see them on the forum about the coach didn't drop all the ball that we dropped and didn't make the mistakes that we made. The fact is, we made those mistakes because we weren't ready to play. The intensity was low, and yes, there's personal responsibility on the players, but we're seeing this too much from this team now. I'm sick of showing up at games and having a game, seeing a team that looks like they don't want to be there. Too many players who look like they're just happy being NRL players, and that's it.
Yeah, Gary, 100%. I was saying in the group chat that it just looks like they care enough to collect the money, but they don't actually care enough to represent the club and the fans in a way that you need to be able to win games. And it's just so frustrating. Like, I feel so sorry for you two driving up to see that live, because it's honestly just a disgrace. And if I was Justin Pascoe, I think I would be releasing a statement apologising to the fan base, because it's just embarrassing. But so are we all in agreement that we think that it was just a lack of effort from the playing group overall? Like, not that they were just outplayed, just that they weren't trying 100% within themselves. Is that a fair question or answer?
Newcastle weren't that good today. Newcastle did not play a great game of football. They led 14-0 at half-time. They should have probably been up by at least 20 at that point, because we gave them that much ball. Our defensive structures were terrible, especially our goal line defence. As soon as the side gets down there, they got us in trouble straight away. Newcastle did not play that well today. We just made the scoreline just made them look really good because we were that poor.
Yeah, and I just say around effort, like I do believe players go out there and try. But I honestly also believe, and I hope this makes sense, there are some players and some teams that try harder than others. And what I mean by that is grit and effort, and when it gets tough, you don't give up. And when the chips are down, you fight through it. That's we just don't do that. We have never shown that. And it's weak. I think they are trying. But I don't think they try hard enough, and they give up. And maybe that's lack of belief. But, for crying out loud, it's about time you take stock and believe in yourself as a first-grade footballer and go out there and show it. And not just the footballers, because it comes down to execution as well. And execution starts with planning, which is all about the coaching staff. So I'm 100%. I've often said, and I've often of the belief that, the coaching staff cop it too much and the players have got to show it. But it's absolutely everyone out there. Yeah, it is effort, but it's execution, it's planning, it's the whole box and dice.
And I think that second try Newcastle scored was the one where they put through the semi-bomb that we didn't attack at all. We were just going to let bounce and hope that it goes over the dead ball line. And one of the Newcastle forwards ran through, caught it and put it down. I can't remember who scored it. But that, to me, Hastings was in a position to make a play on that ball. And he's turned into West Tigers player straight away because that effort to get to that ball on the full wasn't there. Laurie probably should have got there as well. The fact that the score was 6-0, I think, at that time, and we didn't put the effort into to defuse a kick like that, that's early in the game. That's not being outplayed. That shows a real lack of effort. We were waiting and hoping the ball would go dead. That's not how you win NRL games. You can't win NRL games on hoping that you get a bounce of the ball. You got to go out there. You got to go out there with intensity, and you've got to go out there and win the game. You don't win the game by letting the ball bounce and hoping it goes dead.
Yeah. Like, obviously, as bad as we were defensively, we also had quite a fair bit of good ball in the red zone for the Newcastle Knights. And just wondering, I'd love to get your guys' opinion. I'll start with you, Steve, on the spine in the first 2 rounds so far. What are your impressions of them? And then how do you reckon they went today?
Well, I think the best our spine has looked so far this season has been in the trial against the Roosters. I thought the spine was quite well, especially the halves. The spine. I could say the spine because Simpkin has been thrown in the deep end absolutely. But the other 3 have been, like last week, I thought they were competent without being brilliant. Today, I was too far away to really analyse it, but there was no direction out there in attack that I could see. There was no leadership that sort of comes from your 6 and 7. There was nothing there for the fullback to come in. Simpkin seemed okay today. Again, I'm talking about someone who watched it from a long distance away. He seemed to make a bit of yardage up the middle. But to answer your question, I'd say the spine has been average, but it hasn't shown anything overly promising.
To me, I go back to the pod we did in the pre-season where I spoke about our structure and attack, and today I think was a prime example of that. We lacked that push through the middle. We spread the ball too early, and then when we were down on their line, we're throwing those block plays at them again that we do at half pace, and it doesn't actually create any room for our players. So I have a problem with that. We're still playing left and right. I don't think we can play left and right. I think we need to have Hastings playing as halfback and Brooks playing as the 5'8". I want to see Hastings getting the ball, and instead of just looking to set up for a block play, I want to see how he played in that Manly game where it was a little bit more eyes up, where he was looking at attacking the bigger forwards that were in front of him. Instead of going with these block plays that we're doing, we do them far too slow. There's still a lot of teams there's been a lot of tries scored over the weekend off block plays, but they're executed well. We do them at half pace. It looks like we're running a training drill when we run our block plays, and you see it every time. Go back and watch the replay. Look at the number of times Laurie sweeps around the back off one of those block plays, and there's just defenders in front of him. He's got nowhere to go. He's got no room to create for his outside men, and it's just pointless us running that play. We run it time and time again. It was pointless us running it last year because we were doing the exact same thing to him last year, running him out of space, but giving the ball in a position where there's defenders right in front of him. It's just not working. That whole whole structure that we're running, especially on their goal line, needs to change, and it needs to change quickly.
Just to add to what you're saying there, Gary, like you talk about like the block plays can work when they're done at pace and they're executed well. You have to wonder what happens during the week, and this is what I suppose I'm most frustrated about. Like what Gary just said, I agree with 100%. If I just took a step back a little bit to something more general, we've just been making these same errors. This is what's so frustrating. How long has our goal line defence been as weak as? How long? How long has our catching of the high ball to high ball to wingers been really deficient? Like how many times do we drop a ball put out onto our wings? And and how often do we make unforced errors, either by giving away a penalty or dropping the ball, which turns the ball over and just stops any momentum or any chance of getting momentum? Like today, the first four times, we had Newcastle hemmed down on their line. We gave up a penalty, right? Gave up a penalty and gave them free yardage, and with that breeze, they kicked the ball off the penalty like 45 to 50 metres and started their set on the halfway line, and we had them on their 10. Like, it's been happening for years. You could almost say it's been happening for a decade, and that's what's so frustrating.
And the thing is, how quickly, like, we get some new players across, and how quickly we turn them into West Tigers players. Like, Hastings' first game against that trial game against the Roosters was quite good. He was playing a completely different style to what we've played. And now we're 2 weeks into the season, and he's heavily involved in those block plays. And even when he goes through, he makes a big break, throws a nice cutout ball to Gilder that went, 15 to 20 metres. He somehow ends up in front of him and blocks him from running away to score the try. Like, it's those simple things that we... No team can bomb a try the way the Tigers do, and the way we did that today, we just turned players from good players into West Tigers players so quickly.
Yeah, like obviously we'll wrap up now, boys. But just before you guys leave, and I've still got you, can I get a pressure gauge out of 10 on Michael Maguire going into next week, and if there's any changes you guys would make to the lineup for the Warriors on Friday night? I'll start with you, Steve.
Well, a pressure gauge on Maguire, yeah, he's under enormous pressure straight away. Like it'll be all over the media this week without doubt. We said that pre-season that if the team starts poorly, and I don't think anyone expected us to win last week before the game. I'm not talking about what happened during the game, but before that game, no one would have expected us to beat Melbourne. But today was a game that we should have, at the very least, competed in. So the pressure's on him. What changes we need to make? I don't know yet, Declan. Like, honestly, I have to go and have a look at the game again. The reason I say I don't know is because who is there to replace the current 17, 18 that we're trotting out? I really don't know. So that's not a great answer, unfortunately, but I'd have to look at it and also look at how, reserve grade went.
Yeah, Gary, same question to you.
Yeah, I don't think Maguire's going to be here next year. I don't see us being able to. I think we're going to have a very similar season to last year, where it's kind of up and down. I would not be sacking him tomorrow. The pressure is going to start to build on him. I would give him a little bit more time. We're starting the season with him. Let's see if he can turn it around. So I'd give him a little bit more time to try and do that. But if I'm looking forward and I'm predicting, I don't see this side improving greatly this year. Changes for next week. I wouldn't make a lot of changes for next week because based off our recent history, we're likely to turn around. This team's likely to turn around and put in a pretty good performance next week and probably get away with a win. It just tends to be the way that we will play absolutely no effort, and then they'll get some rockets put up them and they'll turn around and they'll perform the next week. I would be looking at Hastings playing in the 7 and playing as predominantly first receiver. I want him touching the ball more than Luke Brooks. I want him kind of controlling the game, and I want him to I want him to play the way that he actually played in that game against the Roosters. I want to see him taking the line on and probing in and around the forwards and then looking to offload. I liked how he played in those games. So that's what I would like to see happen. I think we'll see pretty much the same team run out next week. I don't think we'll see a lot of changes. But that pressure is really starting to ramp up on Michael Maguire.
I would just like to say one thing, Declan, before we close it off, and that's about next week. If by chance we win the toss next week and there's a howling gale blowing down the field, could we perhaps run with the breeze in the first half? Like for a team that needs everything to go their way and does not handle losing momentum well and needs every bit of momentum to start to believe they could win a game, running into a strong breeze in the first half did not seem a real smart choice from my thinking.
I do have a question for you, Steve. So you've made the effort to travel up to Newcastle today. You've seen the effort that the team put in to kind of reward your effort of driving up. How hard are you trying to get to Campbelltown Stadium on Friday night for 6 p.m?
Yeah, well, that's a good question, and it would be easy to say, well, it's going to be real hard, but I'll be there. I'll be at the game because that's what I do. And what I would love to see, and don't take this the wrong way, I'm not throwing myself out there, but I'd like to see our club show the same commitment that a lot of our fans show. There were stacks of West Tigers supporters there today. I'm sure you noticed it, Gary. Like there were heaps that have made the trek, and I'm sure there'll be the same people making that effort next week. And I think what becomes so frustrating and why we have scenes like we had at Leichhardt Oval against the Cowboys is because maybe people don't think that level of effort is replicated by the players and the club in general. So it's a good question, and right at this moment I don't feel like going, that's for sure, but I will.
And one thing that I've just had a message pop up on my phone from Frullins, one of the guys from the forum, and he just raised a very good point that I think we've all kind of forgotten about. Hastings is probably going to be suspended next week. So he did that lifting tackle in the game. So that probably changes the team quite a bit just in itself. So I don't know if he's listening. Maybe he's listening live and he heard me talking about playing Hastings at halfback, and maybe that's why he sent through that message. But I think that's something that needs to be considered as well. Like, there's a very good chance Hastings won't make the side next week.
Well,
are you going to go to the game, Declan?
No, hell no. But I do. I'll be driving to Canberra while the game is on. So I do have an excuse. I'm not just ditching them because they're a terrible team. I'm ditching them because I've got better things to do. But
wouldn't Campbelltown be on the way to Canberra from your place?
I don't know, is it?
I actually don't know where you live, I'm guessing. It's on the way to Canberra from most places in Sydney.
Declan, this might be your Jock Madden moment, mate, next week. You might need to be there.
Yeah, I'll be the shining saviour that everyone's been begging for. But obviously, tough game. Like, we could obviously be here for probably 5 hours at least talking about it. But we'll probably wrap it up here. Thanks everyone for listening in. If you've got comments, if you disagree with us, please comment on West Tigers podcast forum. We would all love to hear your opinions because it's a big issue. There's not one clear-cut answer to everything. And thanks for coming, boys. I'll see you guys next week.
Thanks, guys.